The Aeon is a card rich in thelemic symbology. It's very, very different from the card known as Judgment here on the Rider-Waite deck, which shows a Christianized image of salvation, a very positive looking card, a very dreamlike image, where here on the Thoth deck we indeed have the Aeon representing the three Aeons which we've spoken about before, and laced in the imagery of Aleister Crowley's Thelema. Over on the Tree of Life, this card would occupy a path between Hod and Malkuth, and so Hod is said to be where our intelligence as humans is located, is basically the seat of our consciousness, and so this is like our willpower. This is the origin of our willpower, and Malkuth is the lower physical world, and so it's connecting the energies that we've spoken about all throughout the deck. So by understanding and evolving within the nature of the physical world, the universe sees that there is a oneness behind creation, and all perspectives are done away with and so on, just as we've been seeing throughout all of the deck up to this point. We can see the Hebrew character at the bottom of the card, and this is the Hebrew character of Shin. Shin is an interesting symbol because literally translated it means tooth, and yet it's also one of the characters, the originator character of the Hebrew word, the letter of fire, and we're actually going to come back to that later on, so just bear that one in mind. But here we can see the letter Shin with three characters actually kneeling inside the characters which are Yod characters at the top of the letter, and so the Yods are fire, as we've been saying, and so the kneeling figures inside are they're in the heart of fire, within the heart of flame, and if you want to look at them you can bring them from right to left as a father and a mother, and then in the centre would be a child, the child being very slightly brighter than the other two if you look carefully, and that is the child Horus, the Aeon, the new Aeon of Horus. The astrological connection is that of Libra, and indeed you can see the sigil of Libra displayed in this archway which goes behind the card. If we look back at the Thoth deck, we've had another card which was associated with Libra, and this one was the card of adjustment, and so this was a symbol of course justice, law and order, and of course an order to the universe as well, and so this energy is within this card. The actual arches of blue and of green are the colours of Libra, and therefore were the colours of the adjustment card as well, so this is really driving home that energy is in there. And there's also the orange and red sort of coloured arch, which is yet again the element of fire, the sort of line, supposedly the jagged lines representing a burning fire, and therefore going back to the phoenix, the rebirth out of fire, symbolic of an energy of change and renewal. You can even see the elemental symbol of fire here in the bottom of the card, which is again a purification of, so the old is burnt away and out of what is left grows the new. And so if you were looking at tarot cards as a form of divination, this could mean a change coming, for example, as well as a more standardized symbol of spiritual paths and spiritual transformations. So even John the Baptist says that you should be baptized with the Holy Ghost and with fire, and so there is this symbol of fire as a rebirth coming up in all different spiritual practices. One of the most prominent symbols on this card is the goddess Nuit, and here the goddess Nuit is very much coloured in. In some of the cards previously we had a sort of ghostly image of Nuit, where here we have a vibrant goddess Nuit forming an archway, a firmament, and this is actually into the shape of the letter Omega, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And of course we've heard of Omega in the book of Revelations, I am the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end, and so on. So there's a great mystical interpretation of that straight away. And so the goddess Nuit is seen in this upper part of the card. And you can see on this image of Nuit a type of spiralling of universes. These are clearly images of galaxies and of universes, planets and stars being born and dying, and of course the symbology of the goddess Nuit as this mother goddess, she who gives birth to the stars and is also a protective goddess and so on. And she has a belt on her, and upon this belt are again circles or spheres, and these actually represent the symbols of the zodiac, the planet symbology of the zodiac. And so Nuit here is of course the speaker of the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley, one of the core books of Thelema, and so it's no doubt that Nuit is going to take up this very prominent and colourful position on this card. She is also wearing bracelets or anklets, and there's two different patterns upon these. The ones upon the left, which are a spiked image, represent the universe of matter, the formed universe, and it's said that the symbol here is supposed to represent that of a heartbeat, and therefore the very power of what allows us to persist in this physical world is that of the beating of our heart. And so here we have a symbol of physical life and the continuation of physical life because of the beating heart. And the anklet on the right hand side, which has wavy lines, is the universe at large, the macrocosm, so the great formlessness of the universe, all the different vibrations and frequencies of life represented with the wavy lines. And so putting those two together, we have of course the aim of Hermeticism, the as above and so below, which is seen in pretty much every card. In between the goddess Nuit and in this central position is this symbol which represents Hajit. And so again, talking purely Thelemic imagery here, so this is this winged globe of fire is Hajit, and there are images of Hajit representing Kether, the top crown on the tree of life, yet again. And so Hajit is a masculine energy and therefore has a phallic form to it, and so really we have here a symbol of a type of sexual magic or sexual alchemy. It shows a sexual unity between Hajit and of Nuit, and so he is activating within her dormant potential. He is winged, the image is winged, and so it's phallic, it's rising upwards, so to speak, and it's representing a type of motion, and therefore can be the Kundalini awakening and the quest, if you like, for infinite enlightenment and knowledge and the infinite potential of the universe. And so this rising up from the bottom upwards here to show and to reach into the infinite. Horus is the image which is shown in the front of the card, and as you can see he's transparent. It looks almost as if he's ghost-like. He's also naked, and this is purely a symbol of his innocence. He's a child. He's the new Aeon of Horus. It purely represents being unclothed by the madness of the world, if you like, the horrors of the world. He is a complete innocent child here, and that's what that represents. The symbol that he's making with his hand on his lip again looks like Harpocrates, as we've seen before, the god of silence and the god of therefore keeping secrets. But Horus is also the product of Hajit and Nuit. It's the child that has been manifested through that union, and in Thelema there is a special name for this child, this Aeon of Horus, which is Heru Ra-Ha. And we had this before, of course. There's two different sides to this. There is the passive side of Hua Pa Krat, and the active side, which is Ra Hua Kuit. And we saw that back in the Sun card as well. To get more information on that, you're going to have to look more into Aleister Crowley's work, because it would take a long time to explain on the actual video. But indeed we have this sign of silence being shown here, and the Greek version of Horus is indeed shown as Harpocrates, as we can see in these type of images, and so everything links up. There's a golden light, of course, central in the card. This is another solar symbol, and so it's showing Horus actually surrounded in the sun, or in this golden light. And the card, it can be the sun, but it can also simply be fire. It can be showing a new birth coming out of fire. So whatever is behind the card, if you think about it three-dimensionally, has been burnt by this fire, and out of the flame comes this new life, this new Aeon of Horus. Now you can see three serpentine images here. One of them is coiled around the area here of his head, which would be known as the third eye area, and therefore that's suggesting that there is illumination and spiritual growth to come. It's the potential of this enlightenment and this path that this child is setting upon. Remember that he's only innocent, he's only young, and yet here we have straight away the enlightenment that is coming out of him. He's also wearing a headdress which has two horned images projecting out of it sideways here. These are similar to Egyptian crowns that you may have seen, such as that were created out of clay, and been the clay taken from the banks of the Nile and actually formed into these wonderful headdresses. And so it's really showing that Egyptian connection of Horus on him there. And you've also got a curly hair. If you look carefully, it has like a curled lock of hair. This is supposed to represent youth, of course. The youth often has like that little curl of hair, and so again it's showing the youth, the youngness, and therefore the new beginning of the whole thing. Ra-Hoor-Khuit, the active side of the god Horus, is shown here on the card as an entity or a deity which is actually sitting on a throne behind the new Aeon. And in his right hand he is holding the wand of the phoenix. This is a very powerful symbol, and yet his left hand is empty and held outwards like this, and so it's saying that there is nothing remains from the left hand. And so this is an implication of the ending of one era and the rebirth and renewal of another era, and that is really what this entire card represents. It's showing that a child is born, and the child is the Aeon of Horus. He's a solar deity, and that's why we have this sun, this solar energy surrounding him. And therefore that light, of course, dispels the darkness, dispels the night, which is the goddess Nuit, and therefore it represents a cycling of time and of seasons and of life and death and so on. And so that's why you have both night and day represented within the card, and they're being ruled by these Egyptian gods because they're therefore linked to the meaning of the Aeon, which is cycles, beginnings, endings. And of course these can be any different thing, which it can be a cycle within our daily life. We get up in the morning and we go to bed at night, for example, and if you look at that on a larger level, we are born at one end and die at the other, and that's just within our physical lives. In our spiritual lives there are many cycles and beginnings and endings as well. And so if you pick this card up in your reading, it can be saying that, it can say that, you know, your life is changing, and different experiences may be showing you new paths. They may have big impacts on your life which are forcing a change, dispelling that darkness, and so it could be saying it's time to move on from a particular situation because you've seen it in a new perspective now, and you've seen endings, you've seen beginnings, and it's time to review things in your life, if you like, and see how you've grown, review the bigger picture and look back and say, wow, you know, I've really moved on from that. It's a period of growth and a period of deep understanding. It's a very lovely card, and is one of the cards on the Thoth deck which is very different in its symbology from that of which we've seen on previous decks.